All right. I'm Shub. Welcome to the second episode of the Practical Nerds podcast. My partner Patrick and we're from Fundamental. Many of our friends in the ecosystem wanted us to start a podcast on what we see in the built world and the world of construction and design. We thought we need to honor their request, and therefore we thought, hey, let's just start a podcast about nothing, right? What better way to honor their request? So here on the second episode, we have my partner Patrick, as always, as a co-host. Hey, Patrick. And we have Altaf, who's founder and CEO of Snaptrude. Hi, Altaf.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Patrick. Hi, Shub.
Hey guys. Hey Shub, in your intro, did you say we honored the request or they warned us? I'm not sure if they warned us about the podcast.
I mean, hey, if people ask us for a podcast on construction and we give them a podcast about nothing, that sounds about right, right? I think we did indeed honor the request.
Nice.
Altaf, it's been I think a few months, maybe less than a year or about a year, I guess, since we got in as investors or decided to get in as investors in Snaptrude. But I feel like I've forgotten what Snaptrude is all about. I feel like you need to refresh my memory a bit, man, what Snaptrude's all about.
Yeah, it's a very complex piece of software that we are building. It's very forgetful. But yeah, happy to honor the request for that matter. So basically, we call ourselves like think Figma, but for the construction industry. But a lot of people don't know Figma in the construction industry. So let's say a lot of design to construction tools are kind of dominated by a single player, which honored the dark mode or the dark side this year. We are trying to take them on, basically, to build a better, modern, collaborative design tool, which is cloud first or web first, and puts the user at the heart of it. Like, people love designing the way they do, but none of these tools just enable them to do that. Like, give them that in their hands and give them the power of data. The data would be building information modeling, which is a one long promise which is being delivered in such siloed environments till today. And that's something which we are trying to fix. So in very simple terms, I again complicated it, which would make people forget it, is the ease of sketching, the power of BIM on the cloud. That's what Snaptrude is.
You know, isn't this fascinating?
I wish I had prepared this buzzword bingo game, Altaf. But let me put out 4 buzzwords, and you let me know how many points I score. So Snaptrude is BIM, 3D, multiplayer, concurrency. Like, how did I score?
100 out of 100.
I didn't hear the word AI in there, so I think my VC friends aren't liking this one. I'm sorry, dude. Not liking this. Hey, but there's something you said, Altaf, which it's quite fascinating, and I think it goes back to the heart of what Patrick and I and all of us at Fundamental we come across so often. It's that a lot of professionals in this industry, they really love designing, right? And really want to quickly get into design and just be able to easily and quickly just do design, right? And you said, you know, it's a delightful process, but why would that not be so if not for Snaptrude?
If not for Snaptrude, design is actually a very non-linear process, right? Like, it's supposed to be. It's iterative in nature. And none of these tools are built for iteration is what I've realized. Like, if you're not helping them iterate faster or reduce the number of iterations, then you're adding more work, and that's where it becomes non-delightful. That's why you still see a lot of these senior architects still go back to doing sketching on a piece of paper, because it's much easier to do it there than do it in some of the complex products like Revit, for that matter. I'll take the name.
Sure.
And that's what we want to bring back to the table, which is ease of sketching, which everybody is used to, but give them the power of digital data environment and make it collaborative. Like, it's not a one-person game. Like, design is not just one person's ideology. It runs across, and construction especially, it's again not just an architect or the designer at heart. It's like it involves so many people whose opinions matter.
Mhm.
compliances matter. And if you're not aware of how your design fits into those constraints, you're basically shooting in the dark and then come back to later realize you're missing most of the targets and one of them is hitting, which might not be the best choice. And you'll just go with it because everything is delayed and the developer is sitting on your head saying that I have a construction loan or like I've taken loans which I need to fulfill. So give me anything which you can.
So Altaf, your target users, among others, are architects, and so I wrote last year this love letter to architects, which my wife gave me a lot of flack for. She said she wished I had written her such a love letter at some time, but I really love working with the architect world because they are such a tight community, aren't they? I mean, whenever you build a great product for like one part of the architecture world, there's really the potential to like get multiplied like wildfire because they really have these dynamics, don't they? Where they talk with each other, they exchange on products, they help each other, they organize really as a true community, don't they?
To an extent, yes. To an extent, no. They definitely is a huge amount of word of mouth. But again, there is another huge problem that they don't share anything meaningful with each other. They guard their intellectual property a lot. So they don't share what is making them win the projects, but they definitely are a very vibrant and connected community in some form. But what they share just depends on what they want to.
I see. I mean, that sounds to me like a, great product building opportunity where if you don't, okay, sharing around winning projects, winning clients, etc. I mean, it's a very competitive industry. You have to work
Yes.
long hours in many cases. Like if you're a junior, the salary is not always like the greatest, and you really have to work your way through the ranks. No, I mean, very, very hard working. But on the other hand, the folks that I meet, like they're very product minded. They're and what I've loved, so David Basulto, the founder of Arch Daily, he explained this to me. I don't know if he used this analogy, David, if you're listening, apologies, but there was this elevator analogy. And so he explained this to me saying, hey, a great architect is able to ride the elevator up and down. At the very top, a great architect has vision about the product that they are building, and the design philosophy that they want to follow. But they have to ride all the way down into the basement where the nitty-gritty details are, right? And they have to get those details right. And so that's something where I think people are great at product is these architects.
Yeah, you cut off for a bit, but I got the question. Um, Definitely, I think architects have, like the good architects, definitely have the ability to have a 30,000 feet perspective using the VC language, and also be grounded on the day to day to analyze what needs to be done. And that's what separates like a great architect from the average ones over there who can have a great perspective. And like this is in fact a way product managers or product thinkers also approach generally. So this is basically in some form like design thinking, uh, which everybody, like be a UI UX designer, be a product manager, be an architect, they have this common trait. And I feel that's why architects can be really good product people, because most of it is common sense, but just like changing your perspective. Like they know perspective sketching since they start doing their undergrad courses, right? Like they can reimagine the same thing from 3 point perspective, 2 point perspective, orthogonal perspective. And that approach, not in a literal sense, but like more in an analogy, also applies to building products, building
Yeah,
buildings.
I agree. And building products, by the way, I mean, always happens under constraints. I mean, that's another thing that architects share all the time is you're always working under constraints, time, budget, manpower resources, etc. So I've really found many architects to be great at product and also appreciating great product, like Snaptrude. I think the time is now coming where all these great products, Snaptrude, Rayon, Speckle, many others out there that really rebuild the stack for the architect get appreciated because architects are great at product.
Absolutely, because they're designers in nature. I don't know why they have put up with such bad product which they have been served for such a while, but glad that we are doing something to give them what they were looking for.
I find
Shub,
it incredible. so much has happened in innovating on the SaaS model, cloud model, and yet so much of the, I guess if we were to call it a software stack for construction, for design, etc., it's still not even yet properly made the transition to cloud, right? That's how far behind we are when it comes to software for construction and design. We're still operating out of stuff which was the norm a few decades ago. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for democratizing access for architects, for a whole bunch of design professionals who, and I think let's face it, the backbone of the world of architects and designers, it's still mostly very small, shops, maybe even individuals operating as professionals.
I
Yeah,
agree.
absolutely.
So how
And
about we
you're
switch?
mentioning about, yeah.
No, go ahead, Altaf.
Yeah, so you're mentioning about cloud, right? Like cloud has touched every industry that you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Construction is one thing which that comes on top of my head. There could be another few that we are still so hesitant. And even in cloud, like I think in the last 5 years, the cloud transitioning is happening. But people have created silos even there. Cloud is supposed to help people collaborate. Why do you have
Yeah.
5 things to collaborate today?
Mm-hmm.
And none of those 5 things also talk to each other. So they're basically copying the desktop stack, putting it
Yeah.
on the cloud, and copying the same problems, like maybe intentionally, I don't know. Just to just like hamper people is what it looks like to me.
And I mean, let's be real, okay? I mean, I was very flabbergasted. I think it must have been like a year or 2 years ago when someone pointed out to me the data about the legacy software providers in the architecture software stack. Many of them have like 30-40% of their software in the cloud. The rest is still on-prem. I've actually seen, some examples where they still hand out CD-ROMs. We're talking 2021, 2022 here. It's unreal in this industry.
Yeah. And even the cloud, it's not like great. Like if you have to press a publish button and takes 8 hours to send a model to the cloud, why would I want to even do that? Why would I wait 8 hours doing nothing to push something to cloud?
I don't know. You get paid for it? I don't know.
I think we've, gentlemen, I think we've found the answer. I think that is indeed the answer. Um, on that note, I guess if it was indeed a note that we found, um, Altaf, what's like the coolest or craziest thing that you heard from anyone, that any stakeholder, anyone you've interacted with in the last week or let's say a month? Some company, some piece of technology, some unique insight that you thought, man, I haven't heard this before. How crazy cool is that?
Get us that deal flow, Altaf. We're relying on you.
Let me think. I haven't met a lot of founders. I've been talking to a lot of customers in the last week, but let's find an intersection on the tech side of architecture who I've met so far.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how crazy or weird it is, but I won't take names. But basically, like AI and automation, I think, have
Mm-hmm.
been talk of the town everywhere. So we were contemplating generative AI, I think is very promising, but in architecture it's a lot more gimmicky yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like we need to still figure out applications, but like when you bring AI to real core of construction, which is more constraint driven,
Mm-hmm.
can AI start doing a good job at it? So I'm going a little more technical here. Pardon, it's really getting into the nerdy side of the area. But constraints are like graphs at the end of the day, right? Like you can represent it as a graph. Neural networks foundationally are like graphs in
Mm-hmm.
some form, just that it's very hard to get meaningful understanding of how they work. Can you take these constraints and map those in a similar model? That was something which I was having a brainstorming session over, and you could like pick structural engineering for that matter, like the like how do you create structures out of something which is like a schematic level design. Can these start solving those problems? I'm not sure yet, but this was something which was very insightful.
Nice.
It's a little too technical, but like still, I thought I did a good job, decent job.
Look,
Judging if anyone had to do justice to it, I guess it had to be you. So I'm glad it came from you and not Patrick or me.
I mean, actually, judging by the live comments here on LinkedIn, we seem to have quite a technical crowd listening right now. So, Altaf, well done. Shub, let's know what was the craziest thing you saw last week?
Let's see here. I think sticking with what I said last week, it's not so much what the business does, but what was put on the table to me, and what that represents in terms of cash flows and the P&L. So
now you're not going to talk again about the company. You're not going to share anything about.
So I am going to talk again about a company that I'm not going to share anything about, but it's a different company this time.
Nice.
Right? So a different company this time around. One of the proposals, and keep in mind it's a bootstrap company, one of the proposals was that, hey, as part of the very first round we're raising, mind you, we'll just put together part of the round, we'll just invest some of the accumulated profits we have done as a business, the retained earnings. So we'll just reinvest the retained earnings that we've already made as a business and put that as part of the investment in the round, which I thought, okay, fascinating, right? I haven't heard that before, or at least I haven't heard that in quite a while. So that for me was like a crazy aha moment.
I think you're right now blowing the minds of many VCs in the Western world.
Still not getting the attention, man. I wish it was an AI company, dude.
Well, it has to be generative.
What was the craziest thing you saw, Patrick?
So I worked this week on this debunking of best of lists and market maps in ConstructionTech. So basically, what I wanted to figure out is, do pundits, when they publish all these are the top 30 construction tech companies you have to watch out for, or hey, here's my market map for construction tech, do they actually do a great job at curating companies? And so ran a lot of data on that. Shout out to my colleagues Sanmati, Chinmay, Fabio, and Seb, who did help me a lot with the funding data, because we looked at more than 20 market maps which contain more than 530 companies. I mean, long story short, you can read it next week on aecvc.com. But long story short is, if those market maps and best of lists were a fund, they probably wouldn't get much more money. The IRR on those things looks pretty bad. So my takeaway from that is, I'm going to tell all the founders that we partner with, do what you do anyway. Just build product, build a business, and don't give a fuck about PR. Because the reality is, and maybe tossing this to you guys as well, I get why it can work in consumer, right? In consumer, actually getting real attention from a broad general public can help build your business, can generate demand, etc. But look, in B2B, the only two stakeholders that should matter to you as a founder is, one, your customer, and two, your talent. Not the investors. The investors have a job to reach out to you anyway. It's their job, right? Your customers in B2B, they don't hang out on TechCrunch. They don't hang out on market maps. And in fact, if they perceive you as a startup, that's not always beneficial in an old school legacy industry like ours. If you can present yourself as a serious company, rather than I'm born last year and I raised 20 million from this investor and that investor, I mean, that's not necessarily a good thing with businesses that manage billions of projects, etc. So I'm curious what you guys think of that, but that's kind of my takeaway, is that in our industry, maybe it's actually not good being listed on a best of list or on a market map necessarily.
I mean, look, for my opinion, I think the best case scenario is that it's harmless. That's the best case scenario. I think any scenario where founders, investors, anyone else get ahead of themselves and deem that to be a sign of validation, or even worse, product market fit, I think that is where it gets bad in a very frightening way. So I think, and that could be a recipe for, frankly, self-annihilation, right? Where you start believing stuff which is not really true, in my opinion, right? So that's at least my view. I don't know what Altaf, what do you think? I know it's probably a bit tough hearing all this from investors because I'm sure it is gratifying to see your name in lists and so on. So how would you react to what Patrick and I said?
Like I would agree with Patrick's perspective to an extent, but as you said, it's harmless.
Mhm.
So you don't have to really put in effort. Like we've been building this for a while. It didn't come out few months ago,
I
and we
want to
never
by
really focused on that.
I want to touch on that, by the way. I'm glad you brought that up, but please go on.
Yeah. So we
Yeah.
really never announced anything. It's like we had raised money earlier as well, and we knew that until there is something which you could work with your customer and have something to show, what's the point in getting visibility in a circle where your users will never find you?
Yeah.
So that's
Mhm.
been something which we really focus on. Like hype cycle really doesn't help. It is gratifying to an extent. It makes your team feel good, but I think it will help with maybe hiring if possible if you're raising the next round. But generally for your business, it wouldn't do much. But if you get featured, say in your industry magazines, your industry PR, nothing like it. I think
Mhm.
that's where you should put in as much effort as possible. Say Arc Daily comes up with top 10 architectural softwares. You better be there. You should be there. That's what you need to strive for.
Mhm. Very interesting.
So look, I mean, I agree with the like the sector context. If you get put into like industry magazines and talking to the audience, I also agree with the talent aspect, like I mentioned earlier. But consider this, Altaf, right? And all the founders. So you never know what company you get lumped in. You actually don't have the inside information about the other 9 companies that might be mentioned on your list. Your customers might actually know more than you do because they have talked to them, they have demoed them, maybe they have long-standing history with those firms. And I think that's an underappreciated point by founders sometimes, is that you get lumped together with other company and
Yeah.
investors, customers who've talked to them. And if maybe there's 3 or 4 companies out of them that some folks that are reading this think, I've talked to them, I don't think they're doing that well, or this founder maybe didn't treat me well, or maybe there's some bodies in the closet. You are now lumped together with them unknowingly. And so that's, I think, to your point, Shub, right? I mean, the best result is harmless, but there is downside there.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Hey, Altaf, just picking on what you said, right? So one thing we like to look for, and we've certainly found that empirically as a trait in the very best teams and founders that we have backed, and obviously we have very, very high hopes, no pressure whatsoever on you as well, right? To slot into that description, right? One trait we've seen is the resilience of founders and by association their companies to not be affected too much depending on how good or bad situations get, how investors' interest wanes or waxes, how cool or uncool the model looks like in the moment. Uh, Tell us a little bit because I think you've been on quite the journey. If I may take the liberty of saying, sometimes it's been quite the dark and hideous journey as well, right? Uh, Glad to say, at least, and you've come out of it much stronger. If I may take the liberty of saying, so when you look at your own journey and you look at how some of these hype cycles, right? They randomly keep going up and down, things getting funded, blowing out of proportion, then fizzling out, like how does that make you feel as both as an individual and as a founder when you look back
Yeah.
and see things happening.
Yeah. So one thing which we knew since the beginning, it's a marathon. Nothing is a sprint. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a marathon where you have to keep running. It's not a walking marathon.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the hype cycle, I think things happen. Like they're good to read on some TechCrunch article or some article for that matter. But like you should take what is applicable, not anything and everything that gets published, because um, you don't know how your industry or customers care about that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
generally, any founder who is building or has built it's always going to be up and down. You would appreciate the ups way better if you have seen the lows that very well and handled them. And for us, we knew since the beginning it's a marathon. We have gone through a lot of cycles where we just had to keep building, keep going for it, keep building, keep going for it. But we knew that there was some sense of progress, which we knew, which everybody in the team knew, that we are making progress with the customer, with the industry, with the users. Doesn't matter what people's opinion matter. Doesn't matter what other people perceive us. But like when we know that there's potential here, when we are capturing lightning in a bottle, we are attempting to it, we're getting closer to it. If you have that conviction, I think it doesn't matter what the other external industry or the world says. You'll know when you have it. And it's better to take that approach and think of it as a marathon rather than like just like try to sprint and then give it up because you just got tired way too early, way too soon.
Hey, Altaf, you're in what, year 5 with Snaptrude?
Yeah,
Is that
year
about
5,
right?
year 5 with this.
So what was I'm always curious because it's never like this straight line, the founder journey. So like, what was your lowest low so far?
There have been multiple. I don't know how much I can share, but like there was a point I think in 2021, which was the lowest. Like it was a stretch of about 6 months. Terribly bad. I can't share much details, but yeah, like
Okay.
we knew that whatever it would take, we are not giving up.
Some of the details, I guess to the extent that I can help you out, Altaf, without putting you on the spot. I know that it took sacrifice and multiple parties, not just Altaf, just to call and give credit as well, a few parties to take a big leap of faith and big trust. So I think kudos to those parties as well, who I'm not going to name right now. So
I love those companies that get forged in fire. I mean, it's we've had such an easy funding environment between, whatever, 2012, 2014 to, late 2021. And it's easy to keep going when you know that the money will keep coming your way, right? And everybody's having a party, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, if you think back in history, like the greatest companies usually had like probably several defining moments in their history where they had to make very, very tough decisions. I really love those businesses where the founders already had several like defining moments where they had to persist and make difficult decisions. It makes it so much more likely that you're building a good business and a category creator. I'm sure it wasn't easy, Altaf, but I'm glad that we get to be part after it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same thing applies, right? Whatever doesn't kill you keeps making you stronger.
I mean, just to tease, I guess, and I guess we're all playing it very safe and like apple and mother pie kind of a discussion over here. But Patrick, just to give you a bit of a hint, right, of the dark times Altaf is alluding to, it actually has quite a resemblance to a discussion you and I were having the other day about one of the most revered Silicon Valley VC firms, what they did when the dot-com bubble burst, what they did with
Right.
some of their firms. It was actually, believe it or not, there's actually a very similar story with Snaptrude.
Got it. Well, I mean,
yeah.
every week you tease me on something, and never I get the information. But I guess that's my life now.
That's the only reason we're still together, man.
Oh, thank you. Are you saying I couldn't handle the truth? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think I probably won't be able to handle what you have to say after that once I share too much.
All right. Well, look, I mean, Altaf, let's maybe and Shub, I'd be interested maybe looking ahead a little bit. So overall, let me set context. Altaf, you're building for designers, you're building for architecture people, you're building for construction managers. So maybe Altaf, let's start with you. Like, what's the next 10 years gonna bring for folks in our industry when it comes to design? Like, what are you looking forward to the most? What do you think will happen?
So we have a vision which I'll probably dwell on to begin with and then probably talk about other things for sure. I think cloud play is just happening, which I think will probably take over like even in the US, like the metric which I was reading not very recently is like still BIM is about only 60% there. in the entire industry. Like we still haven't even completed BIM. Cloud is the next big angle that needs to be taken. I think that will probably transition hopefully in the next 3 to 5 years. And ideally in a much sleeker and better environment. Hopefully Snaptrude is the one which makes it happen. And we imagine a world where the true promise of BIM, every white paper, etc., whichever is written, talks about a single source of truth. Can you go from design to construction on a single source of truth and iterate on it, collaborate on it, get the data extracted out of it? And I think that is the play which we are doing in the long term. And we call it as the operating system for construction, which is anybody who starts programming a space to designing it, to detailing it, to generating construction drawings, to collaborating on those construction drawings on the site, which today Bluebeam and PlanGrid have all been used. But you ideally wouldn't need to have like 10 different softwares to do any of these things. You could just raise an RFI on the site. Hey, I don't understand how this door is fitting over here. An architect gets a notification, resolves it, model is updated, drawings are updated, schedule is updated.
I mean, that is big. Sorry, are you saying also that you're wanting to target with Snaptrude, for example, feeding as built back into the BIM model? Like when folks on the construction site were to take, let's say LiDAR is a popular technology, to scan the site, see the real progress, and feed that back into BIM. Like, is that your grand vision?
There is a thought about it. I have like internally written about it. I've done prototypes about how do we take data back in. That was a weekend hack. But like that's definitely there on the
I mean,
plan.
that's a very bold challenge. We've had multiple large construction customers actually talk to us about like the deficiency of on-site capturing. Like a lot of them are using it, but they wish like the one thing that would happen is that you can actually feed the as-built back into the BIM model. So I can relate to what you're saying. I think that's actually, I mean, if someone can crack that, I hope it's you, but whoever, I think that's a huge thing for the industry if we can ever get
Yeah,
to that.
and we don't have a perspective that we have to crack everything. So like I was talking about design to construction, and then of course construction to management, but we are keeping everything open in an API first way. So we don't mind plugging things in. Like we don't have to do everything, but it has to be the OS. That's what I mean.
Got it.
People built applications on the OS.
And
I mean,
for oh, go ahead, Chip.
Go for it. Please.
And so for maybe just to turn the spotlight a little bit on the architect, Altaf, what do you think, or what do you look forward the most to when it comes to the job of the architect, the technology for architects in the next 10 years? Like what's your, the thing you look forward to there?
Architecture is like philosophically what I feel is design generally is logical and not like artistic in nature as well. So it's a right combination of both. And I feel architect's job to an extent is also imparting soul into those constraints, into the building which they come up with. And I think that will still remain. But the constraint side of things maybe will get automated over a period of time as things get better. But the human nature, the soul nature of it, I think is where architects will really thrive. And I have a optimistic view that the job of an architect would change but not go away to an extent which some people write about. I think it will evolve into something else with the power of technology, which can do a lot more to help them or enable them and empower them. We see so many articles written about like this term, which I don't personally like, CAD monkeys, where people are always overworked. They go like 12 hours each day, always against a deadline, always going for whatever is available rather than going for the best option. And I think technology can play a lot of help in getting them to the best option in the shortest time possible. And what they can do best is impart souls into those.
And where do you stand on generative AI for architects? Sorry, that's my last question.
So we've
setting
been
you up here.
Yeah. So if you remove AI, generative stuff has been there for some time in AC. There was like some projects which people have come and gone about. I don't see architects really loving that bit. Like even if you take Spacemaker for that matter, which started that way, has transitioned away from it into data-driven design, not generative design. So you like architects are the masters of what to design. We feel AI can enable them in a suggestive format. That's where I feel the co-pilot approach is way more powerful, which GitHub allows. Like a programmer knows what he wants, just he doesn't want to write for loop 10 times, just like write it for me because that's what it can do. And that approach is where I think generative AI, if you want to call it, or whatever AI, might have a much larger role to play rather than just designing buildings and giving 10,000 options and the architect is going through every option and seeing which one would fit better.
Got it. I mean, one of the things that I look forward the most and where I think the industry is really undergoing a accelerated change at the moment, faster than at any, point in time, in the recent decades, is the interoperability of software, not sending files around, having concurrency and being able to actually build the same model at the same time with the same person and get rid of like these huge blobs of files. 450 megabytes is a small one. And from there, I'm looking forward to a founder at some point or group of founders come up with a way to allow an architect and her or his firm to wrap a horizontal model and train it on their models, on their own library, rather than having this overarching I'm gonna have the generative AI to do whatever, MEP, or to do land development. Rather, allow the architect and their firm to train it on how they practice architecture and how they do it. So I think someone that wraps the ability to train on the proprietary data, I think that could potentially build a massive opportunity over the next, X number of
You're
years.
absolutely right. Yeah, and we don't even have to go to actually using neural networks for that. Like I think the opportunity is a lot of them are just like templates and rules, which you can just start with today, which
That's right.
we have been doing and we have like fairly done it reasonably well in the last few months. And of course, like you can train on it. I don't know what the results would come out, but like just if you remove AI, just the templatization and reusability of it, constraints which people have used, people have found success in, say in architectural firms specializes in hospitals. Some of the rules are fairly straightforward, like the pathways and what's the kind of insulation that you're using, how are your plumbing lines going along. Every architectural firm who is an expert over there knows this. If you can templatize these stuff, you don't need AI apparently to do these things.
Yeah. So, Shub, what are you looking forward to the next years?
I mean, before that, I mean, I just heard two guys say, hey, not to, I mean, there's limitations to AI. So all I'm going to say is, hey, you guys aren't getting any VC funding. You really need to up your pitch, is what I have to say. I need to hear AI and generative AI thrown in a lot more in what you're saying. And with a lot more enthusiasm, gents.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Yeah.
All right. Look, I mean, what I'm working on, must admit, not very different from what I said I was looking forward to the last week. Still, there's, I think, two broad themes that I'm very keen on, and there's a few opportunities on the table at varying stages of being advanced. One, I guess, set of opportunities is on the skilling side to make employment opportunities available, to make workforce available post-skilling. Another set of opportunities, which I at least really like digging into, is more on the supply chain and procurement side. So there's a couple of interesting opportunities. I'm quite keen to dig deeper, conclude as well, one way or the other, in the next week or so.
I've had sorry, you asked earlier, Shub, what was the craziest thing you saw actually,
Oh.
your mentioning of supply chain models triggers another thought. So
Okay.
we have we have multiple terrific managed marketplace models that help with the procurement of different construction material categories in the portfolio across the globe. Inframarket being the most prominent one. So one of them is fundraising right now. Excellent execution, great margins, insane growth, and so we. We showed the company to another investor from, I think, between Asia, US, Europe. They're relatively global, and and showed this one investor, a good friend of ours, that firm, and the reply was, "Oh, sorry, historically managed marketplaces haven't scaled very well. I'm holding off." And I mean, I was literally laughing at my screen. I was like, do you even know what you're talking about? Do you even know of Z-Work, of Off Business, of Inframarket, of Rebus? Like when you look inside into these companies,
Yeah.
they are very, very solid businesses. Shub, can you say what the what the net profit margin of Inframarket is? Can we disclose that?
So I'd say it is in the mid to high single digits of the overall top line after
Okay.
taxes be paid.
Yes. So clearly doesn't scale very well. I mean, it's certainly a terrible business to invest in a venture that is at billions and billions of dollars
So
of.
clarify, so just to clarify, because a lot of my VC friends who are experts at AI often misinterpret what I say about margin structures. What I mean to say is if they bring in $100 of top line in terms of the value of goods moving through the platform, they bring in mid to high single digits of net profit.
Net profit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I hear investors talk about sometimes these, and I feel like it's become worse the last year, is that some like there's a lot of terrific investors out there, and then there's some that have been trained in the environment of the last 6 years, where all you had to do was just basically hunt deals, and next money will come, and let me just win a deal. And then you get these stupid heuristics where, oh, managed marketplaces haven't scaled well, and I'm just sitting in front of my screen. I'm like, I mean,
Hey,
how
but
can you do
Patrick,
your job?
I think by now you should know what happened. You need to get on that AI train, my man.
I know, I know.
That's the reason why we didn't get love from that particular investor on this opportunity. And Altaf,
AI-driven managed marketplace.
I think you also need to watch it. I think you also need to get on the AI train. That's my advice to you guys.
Does it help if I just register a domain under the .ai TLD? Does that help?
I think
It's a
if you
start.
were, I mean, I would highly recommend anyone starting a new company to register a domain of AI.ai. I think
Oh,
you'll start off with a strong note with that one.
okay. I'm on it. Great. So Altaf, we ended last week with Shub and I basically shooting the breeze about nothing what we are looking forward to in the next week. So let's hear from you. What are you looking forward to in your calendar next week?
Nothing or just something real?
Hey, I
Nice.
mean, that's up to you.
Uh, so one thing which I'm really excited about is the AI conference happening in the US next week. We're going to be there with a booth and presenting previews of the next version, which is coming out later next month. The V2 release is what we are calling it as. That would really put us in the roadmap, which is like, hello Revit, here we are. This is how BIM is.
Nice.
I wish I could be there. Is there a live stream?
We can do that. We'll try that.
Okay.
Really cool.
Yeah, I join. I think I know a bunch of people who would join.
And also we'll be doing the preview next build, June 20th. I guess you will be there.
I will. Yeah.
Yeah. I will be under a knife for medical surgery, but I'll join you mentally.
Sure.
That's another thing I'm looking forward to. So, Shub, what about your week?
I mean, just I guess carrying on with the few opportunities that I have. I think there's 3, 4 opportunities that are super exciting. Very keen to dig in. Also looking forward later this month to meet up with Altaf in London over the next build event. Yeah, that I mean, I would say that counts as a full week. I don't know. You may think, hey, does it really? But works for me, I guess.
Yeah, don't hustle too hard, man. We need you rested.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that one.
Great. Well, I can honestly say I'm really looking forward to nothing next week.
Yeah, I definitely always do. I think the three of us did a great job. A whole lot of nothing in this episode.
Yeah.
So I'm glad. I'm glad you turned out to be quite the expert, Altaf.
Altaf, not that I care, but how do you like our concept of nothing?
I loved it. This is like just laughing throughout 1 hour. With some
Nice.
boring stuff in between. Yeah.
Great.
Well, what I can say, and you can choose to take it as seriously or not so seriously if you're so inclined. I guess we're just to say we are like super excited and very grateful to be on this ride with you. Couldn't be more
Absolutely amazed.
any more excited about what's to come. And I'm very sure the description I provided earlier of like the small elite group of people we like to work with, very eagerly looking forward to seeing you in that elite bracket.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be the first outside person to be on this Nothing
Oh, okay.
podcast. And glad we could do so much of nothing.
Nice.
Well done. Altaf, I hear you're now living in New York City. How do you like it?
I'm liking it. It's just been a week. Just been working most of it, so I haven't really gone out to do anything interesting, but need to see how the city
Okay.
treats.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, I don't know New York that much. Like, where do you spend time to have a good time? Is that like shopping on Fifth Avenue, or what are you up to?
My best part would be just like taking walks between meetings and home. That's it.
Nice.
That's what I've done
Nice.
so far.
So your hobbies are nothing. I took note.
I'm
Great.
I'm hardly surprised we resonate so well. I'm hardly surprised.
All right, Altaf, we'll have to have you back on sometime in the future, and I hope to learn even less about what you're doing than I did today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
Bye.